All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight, just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bachat for sending me these images, and we're going to get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but woo. But anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. You know, I really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance, so, you know. Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight, just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bachat for sending me these images, and we're going to get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but woo. But anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. You know, I really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance, so, you know. Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight. Just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bichat for sending me these images, and we're gonna get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road. But anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. You know, I really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance, so, you know. All right. Let me just turn this down. There is about a 17-second lag on stuff today, so just turn that on. And how's everybody doing this evening? Hope you guys are all well. Hey, Garfield, glad you made it. A few things to talk about, and then whatever's going on, you guys. Well, can you hear me okay? By the way, this is BYOB, and it is not a night for tea. It is a night for the real stuff. And, of course, no masks are required. Let's see. We got all kinds of goodies. Oh, there it is, 7 o'clock straight up. So it's time to get rolling. And a couple of things that I thought you guys might find interesting. Okay, why isn't that showing? Oh, I think some of my images got, yeah, they got disconnected. I'm not sure what I must have been monkeying around with the, quite a bit quiet. All right, let me, hold on. I know how to fix that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that any better? Check, check. Oh, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's not it. I just go all the way there with it. A little more volume. Okay. Let me move this a little bit closer. I had to turn down some volume things earlier. 1, 2, 3. Is that any better? 1, 2, 3. Strength 5. Okay. It's coming in okay? All right. Good, good, good. So, I guess I can just delete these because somehow they got moved. So, remove. One of the things I was looking at recently, and I couldn't or have time to, you know what? Let me just go ahead and download that picture. Image. Do it informally here. All right. When I throw this image up, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to recognize this right away. Let me just, that's not the one I was, yeah. Okay. You guys recognize what that is. I have no doubt, and who that is posing with it. Let me do a fit to screen here. I was doing a little research today on models, and I stumbled onto something I think I might have known about. And I thought one of the things we talk about is the voyage of the real Starship Enterprise. Now, you guys all know that the 11-foot model is in the Smithsonian. I've had my picture taken with, everybody has, I guess. What I did not appreciate was that I knew there was a 3-foot model, and I knew there was a an 18-inch model made. And what I didn't appreciate was that there was a lot of misunderstanding about what happened to some of these models. Now, we all know the big one wound up, which was a handmade, just like the others. It was the one that was all lit up and everything, and it was sent to the Smithsonian. What I did not appreciate is that the big Enterprise, the big 11-footer, wasn't even used for any new photography in the third season. Everything they used was stock footage that they had shot previous seasons. Any new footage they shot for the third season was done with the 3-footer or the small one. But what I thought was interesting was apparently the 3-footer is the one with the interesting background. And the small one, the 18-incher, the one that was actually... Now, they did use a couple of AMT kits. They used actually 2 AMT kits in 3 episodes. But it was the same kit. They had the one that was the USS Constitution, the Trouble Tribbles, the one that was outside. But it was Matt Jeffries that actually built it for them. And he kept it. They also, by the way, when they did the Ultimate Weapon... gosh, I already forgot which episode it was, but they took the film from it was the Ultimate Computer, where the M5, you are great, I am great, goes nuts and attacks the starships. They actually took the footage from the Doomsday Machine. That's what I'm thinking of, the Doomsday Machine, and they used that exact same footage and just flipped it of the small model. So there's 2 small models, two small models I used like 3 times, and it was only shot twice, and the footage was flipped and used. So it was a lot of reuse there. That was actually built by and kept by Matt Jeffries, who had designed the original ship. It actually surfaced about 20 years ago, and of course Jeffries himself was selling it, so it got a top dollar. Well, the 3-footer that Roddenberry's there with, that is what's referred to as the promotional model. They did use it on camera many times, but they only used the 3-footer. Roddenberry didn't get it when the show ended, but when they decided to do the animated series, they gave it back to him. I guess sort of as a gift. There was some bad blood. I think it was a way to kind of smooth the wheels. So it went into Roddenberry's personal collection, and it's the apparently there's some debate about what became of it, but it was used for a lot of the swoosh scenes where the Enterprise goes flying by, or they like to use it because there's no way they could get those shots of the big 11-footer. It was too big for the sound space area they had, and you couldn't see the detail, so they only used the big one for the detail shots. One of these things went walkabout, and I think it was the if you look at the big one, the middle one, and the small one, you're going to see some differences on them. Apparently, AMT had access to the big one to take all the measurements to make the kits out of. This 3-footer is a little bit different, and there's a guy named I was just looking at this today. Nashville something. I need to go look that up real quick. But he actually did a history on it that was pretty interesting. And let me just check my history real quick so I can. Weird Nashville, and who stole the case of the missing USS Enterprise? Who stole the Enterprise? And you know what? I think I will, when we're done here, I will try to provide a link to that. But Weird Nashville, the Star Trek shooting model series, the case of the missing Enterprise. And whoever has it, I'm sure, is smart enough not to tell anybody, because it would probably still qualify as stolen property. Some of the stuff went walkabout and is in private hands of super Trekkies, I'm sure. Hey, David. Glad everybody started making it. Yeah, Lexington, Excalibur, Hood, and Potemkin. And they were all the same model shot, quad matted. But in Weird Nashville, he goes into detail about them. And I didn't realize that when Matt Jeffries made the original Enterprise, and when I thought about it, it doesn't surprise me, apparently made out of balsa wood. And, it's an easy wood to work with. That makes sense. Every model builder loves using balsa because it's light and it's strong and it's durable and it's easy to shape. I don't know if that was an actual shooting model or just that he didn't go into detail about that, but apparently it was a small one. And according to Weird Nashville, on the original pilot, don't forget Star Trek had 2 pilots. They had the one with Jeffrey Hunter, you see on the left of your screen there. That's him looking at the model with, I believe, one of the directors. But anyway, a producer. But anyway, point is that That's the 3-foot model. Now, that was made actually as a promotional model, which is one reason it was so detailed. That's the one you see all the photographs of Kirk and Spock holding it. And I think that may be the one that's missing, and it would be worth a small fortune. I think the Matt Jeffries, the regular AMT kit that he built because it was used on screen, got like 40 or 50 grand at auction 20 years ago. But the 33, what they call the 3-footer, it's actually 33 inches, is the one that is kind of the holy grail. It is not lit. The only one that was lit was the 11-footer. But here's kind of a funny haha. The 11-footer, now in the original pilot with Jeff Hunter, the original model, the big one, 11-footer, is only in one scene, and that was that where they angle over and zoom in on the bridge. And Weird Nashville talks about that. The rest of them, they use the 3-footer or the 18-incher. And the swoosh scenes, I think it might have been the 18-incher they used. And it wasn't even properly painted, but it went by so fast I knew you wouldn't be able to tell. So the special tech guys much preferred working with the smaller model. Of course, the big one was good for all the beauty passes and everything, and had the working lights and stuff. But once they shot it from so many angles, by the third season, they didn't need it anymore. And in my video on AMT, I already covered them making the space shuttle models and everything for them. But there was a shuttlecraft model, obviously, as well as the big full-size thing. But that was just something I thought was kind of cool. And I'll like I say, I will link that video from Weird Nashville below when I forget, or you can go look it up. But he says he's going to do one on some of the other models, and I covered some of this in previous videos. I just thought it was kind of cool. You know, you got the missing, and there's actually, you know, there's the kit one, which is now in Paul Allen's, you know, Pop Culture. That's the one that Matt Jeffries. I gotta make sure I say Matt Jeffries, because we talk a lot about cars here, and I don't want to say Dean Jeffries by mistake. Because both of them are making cool stuff for Hollywood. And but Matt Jeffries, who, by the way, Jeffries tubes in the later Star Treks are named after. But I thought you guys might get a little kick out of that. And I think I had another image here somewhere. Let me see. I had, oh, by the way, I actually did make some notes today about a few things to talk about, so hopefully I won't get too discombobulated. And, this is the last known sighting of the 3-footer, and apparently, this is not the close one. Now this is actually the guy who is making the model for the movie, and it appears that, let's see, let me just fit this to screen. It appears that while they were working on the one for the movie, and I think this is the smaller one for the movie, but that one in the background that you see the close-up up on the right, a couple of people who are familiar apparently with that equipment that they're using said that does not scale out to an AMT model. It's too big. And a lot of, apparently, oh yeah, I remember now. Weird Nashville goes into this. Roddenberry had lent the 3-footer to, when they were going to make the movie, he had lent the 3-footer to, I think, the people that had actually fired him. There was some bad blood. And apparently they shot about $5 million of the footage that was unusable. And he was, when he asked him later about what happened to it, the guy couldn't remember. Sure. And Roddenberry said it was best not to push the issue. In the name of harmony. But supposedly this is considered the last known sighting of the 3-footer. And I'm sure it's in somebody's collection. But I just thought that was kind of cool. And well, by the way, now this is a story that I just heard, but apparently, now I've seen one of the original Star Trek phasers, not the Hero one that had the working parts. It was one of the wooden dummies, and it was still pretty well made. But you can look close, you just carved out a block of wood. Apparently, somebody had one of the, I believe it was 6 original phasers from the show, and he'd left it in his car, got stolen. He found it in a pawn shop, and had to buy it back for like $200, but which is worth a heck of a lot more than that. But, so, you know, there's a big market in, you know, after movie props, if you will. And I just thought that was, kind of cool. Now, Matt Jeffries actually furnished the apartment of his hangars. Oh, that is too cool. That is awesome. I think Matt Jeffries had an aviation background. I know that Roddenberry had an aviation background. He'd been an aviator in the military, and somebody said about somebody working for Pan Am, but I was never quite able to confirm if he was a pilot or if he was a navigator or something else. But anyway, since I thought we'd talk a little bit about movie stuff, here's something I thought you guys would appreciate. This, I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with the War of the Worlds, the original War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. And he talked about a ship called the Thunderchild, right? And I know a lot of you guys, because you sent me links, watch, and I hope I'm saying this right, Drachnefell, the nautical channel. And since we're all kind of in that grip, Drachnefell released a while back a video on the HMS Thunderchild from the book War of the Worlds, and I remember we've all seen various forms of artwork, but apparently there actually was no class of ship that met the description that Wells used in his book. And he goes into this 20-minute long video about ships that would have been close or could have qualified, but they had the tumble home hull, which was wrong, or they sat too high in the water, or the engine room was in the wrong place because a heat ray was supposed to blow up the engine room but not the bridge, which meant they couldn't both be mounted midships. He gets into a lot of detail about it. Well, that's what he does. I do love a good bourbon. So anyway, he got up with this guy, Baron Ebel, I think was his name, and apparently this guy is quite the artist, and they got together and concocted from the description what the Thunderchild really would have looked like, and it actually is a ship that could have existed in that period. Now, for the folks who don't know, the Thunderchild was in the original War of the Worlds, which, yes, it was very much just like Godzilla is a euphemism for the atomic bomb and nuclear power, nuclear bombs. War of the Worlds, Wells was a utopian, and he was disgusted by the whole concept of colonialism and empire. And very much War of the Worlds, where the technologically superior race comes in and attacks the inferior technologically race, which is us, was very much a euphemism for British colonial or European colonialism, mostly in Africa. So there you go. And the Thunderchild, but unlike the movie, they didn't have force fields. Cannons and artillery could, under the right circumstances, bring one down. They did occasionally bring down the tripods. And in one famous scene, as the point of view protagonist is trying to escape on a overloaded ferry ship, he sees the Royal Navy attack, and the mighty Thunderchild, which he describes kind of as a cross between a battleship, a dreadnought, and a monitor. Well, they didn't actually have battleships back then. Between a dreadnought and a monitor, attacks and is surprisingly successful. If I remember correctly, it takes out one or two of the tripods, but the heat ray blows up its engine room, and it's he called it a ram. And you'll notice this has a ram bow on it. And that was actually a thing that did exist, and they had one or two, I think it was Penelope and another one, that existed. They actually did still have ram bows on them, but they were much smaller than Thunderchild would have to have been. But it was all supposed to be fast, but an old ship. But anyway, it like rams the third one as the heat ray and the heat ray hits it and blows up the engine room, and it makes one giant valorous last stand and crashes into the third tripod. If I remember, I read the book a long time ago. Or did I listen to it on a record player? And that was Wells. When I was in military school back in '74, I'd seen the movie with my dad, and it was one of a handful of movies that scared the snot out of me. Even when they would use that same sound effect on Star Trek on the bridge, it'd creep me out a little bit. Amazing how effective a good sound effect can be. Anyway, but I'd never heard the original broadcast, and I was in military school. Mind you, did I mention this was like 1974, 75? And I was 14 years old, so it would have been 75. And I found out that the military school, Marion Military Institute, Marion, Alabama, I found out it had a the original Orson Welles broadcast on a record, so I listened to it a couple of times. And but I think I read it in a book, and so that was just this is what Thunderchild would look like. Now, one reason I bring this up, I know some of you guys are fanatical ship modelers. Bruce, I'm talking to you, and I know some of you guys are great kit bashers. Somebody should make that, because I think that is a kit. I'll bet you could put that kit into serial production. If you get a model company to make molds for it, you could put that kit in serial production, put a War of the Worlds paint scheme on, and talk about, made a label with Thunderchild, and they would fly off the shelves, because I know I would buy one. So anyway, I just think it was really cool that Drachnafel got away from his usual documentary on, strictly ships that did exist, and took this one veer off into science fiction, but linked it to reality, which I think is just a great thing. And I think it's a cool looking ship, and that style did exist. And by the way, guys, we have Mike with us. So Mike, I hope you're feeling better. Mike Machat, the aviation artist, and he sent me some stuff we're going to be talking about later, some beautiful box art that we'll be getting into in a little bit. But unfortunately, the War of the Worlds, not the one with Tom Cruise, but the more recent stuff that's been for television that was made in the Victorian era, I wasn't that impressed with it. If you were to do the War of the Worlds the way Powell wrote it, without getting into the how can I put this? Let's just say stick to the book and leave it at that. Then you would have a really, really good movie, and the Thunderchild scene would just be, that was what you'd show in the trailers, because that's what would sell it. And well, so was my humble opinion. Excuse me. Thank you, Robotubeone. HMS Thunderchild, Her Majesty's ship. Dreadnought is a battleship. I know, but I don't think they called them battleships back then. Well, for those, I know you guys probably already know this, but it's called a dreadnought because the first battleship, as we know them today, made was called HMS Dreadnought, and so they became known as dreadnoughts, which not surprising. I don't know if the term battleship, actually don't know when that came along. Hey, Frank. Glad you can make it. Some of you guys have already seen it. Yeah, it really was. You think about the amount of research and work those two guys did. I mean, given that I slam together these YouTube videos as fast as I do, and I know how much work it is to get these cheesy little things put out that I put out, to get that level of detail and do that kind of artwork, and Mike, I'm guessing a piece of artwork like that consumed, 40, 50 hours of the man's time? I mean, I don't know. I think it's beautiful artwork, and it's scientifically accurate, if you know what I mean. I'd buy if they made that as a Thunderchild. I'd buy. Heck, I hate to say this because it's kind of a heresy, but if they were to rebox some old Dreadnought model and just label it Thunderchild, I'd probably feel compelled to buy one, even if I knew it was wrong. And yeah, Bill, you're right. The Olympia would be a good. There are a couple of models of that era, and there are some not terribly expensive repops of the old Olympia and a few others around there that you could probably get. Thunderchild model would be the Iron Shipwright kit of the Arkansas Monitor. See, I agree. The Monitors have that kind of look, because the Thunderchild was supposed to sit low in the water, which some of the ships you pointed out the problem was they had too much freeboard. And but yeah, I agree. The two was more accurate as far as they were on three legs. I'm glad they stayed with it. By the way, real quick, on the 1953 War of the Worlds with Gene Barry, it should be pointed out, and I've harped on this, they actually were supposed to be standing on legs. When as a little kid, I didn't understand why they didn't just fly, but I realized there's one scene where you see they use like sparklers with light shining through them to make the electromagnetic legs, and that's when they first come out and they're first introduced. But it caught the set on fire, and I don't mean in a good way. I mean, it literally, they had to come in with fire extinguisher, stop shooting, and damn near burn the place down. So they said, well, no more of that. It's all just now going to be implied. And it's too bad, because that would have looked awesome. Those ships were designed after the manta ray with the Cobra's head, and they still, to this day, they still kind of creep me out. I mean, that's good filmmaking. When you can be 60 years old and something you saw when you were 8 still gives you the willies, now man, that's movie making. That's storytelling. Same reason I love Godzilla and King Kong and the others, because when I was young, they terrified the snot out of me. And don't need therapy. He says as he swills another sip of bourbon, I love that stuff now. And it's like that they say that the one reason horror movies are so popular, and the same reason the Aurora models sold so fast, is in the human brain we have an off-on switch. We like to have the snot scared out of us once in a while. It's actually considered healthy, because it triggers, I don't know what part of the brain, Abdullah Oblongata, or however you say that. But a lot of people have commented that it's the same people want a thrill ride on a roller coaster. We need that excitement, that challenge. And horror movie, good ones, aside from just jump scares, they can do that. And when you can make a creature like the Martians, or the Martian spaceships from War of the Worlds, or or Godzilla or King Kong, or whatever it is, oh God, don't even get started. Was that at Terror Island with the gigantic protozoa things? Good. I was like, and I walked out of the movie, and I was a grown man. I walked out of the movie Jurassic Park going, there's no such thing as velociraptors. There's no such thing as velociraptors. That's storytelling. And we never saw any structures vanish by the death ray on the tanks. It's an interesting point. They always blew up the structures, and I can still remember that line, that he's talking about it, how it breaks down the atomic glue, the leptons or the mesons that hold things together, and which, believe it or not, actually has a scientific foundation. That's one of the great things about it. Hey, Bill, glad you made it. I know you, again, I realize a lot of things I talk about you guys are already familiar with. I only throw it out there to sort of set the groundwork. But there was a movie called Mind Walk with Liv Ullmann and Sam Waterston and, what's his name? The High Commander. Beautiful. Lithgow. And the three of them just spend their day walking around this tourist attraction talking about stuff. And she's a physicist, and she explains how atoms are put together. And you realize that all of us and everything that we know is material physical stuff is actually just energy, and it moves very fast in an extremely small area and creates what we perceive as a solid. And if you were to take any, she makes a point. She holds up like a soccer ball and goes, if this was the nucleus of an atom, the electron would be about the size of a pea, and it would be going around in a circle that's roughly the size of this island that we're on. And in between, there's basically nothing. And it's held together by leptons or mesons or whatever, which is the atomic glue that we apparently don't really understand. But if you were to get that atomic glue to let go, where the stuff just flowed free, basically everything would just, whatever you hit with that ray would just literally vanish, just like in the movie. And which only made it all the more terrifying. So let's hope no one figures out how to undo atomic glue, or we're really going to have some problems. Yeah, I was kind of, hey, Sangwar, I was kind of wondering as we were talking about why even as a kid, I was like, wait a minute, they made the tanks disintegrate, but they made other things catch on fire and they blew other things up, which means clearly their death ray has a setting, disintegrate, blow up, catch fire, heat ray, but that sound effect they used, in my humble opinion, was perfect, at least to scare the snot out of an 8-year-old. I still love that movie. That is why when I did that Exodus diorama thing, as you guys I'm sure were quite aware, it was loosely, and even used a couple of still screen grabs from that War of the Worlds. So I just think that was a very well done movie, especially given when it was made. The model work was good, everything was good about it. And it literally is disintegration. By the way, Daryl, I'm probably going to send you some stuff here in a while, and eventually for some more songs. Garfield made the mistake of sending me a really bad idea that I'm going to follow up on probably at some point. Time depending. And while we're on a note of things like that, I got a box today from Mark Huber. And it's these little figures, and we'll show them here in a second. But I thought I would read his letter, which means changing glasses. You know, I was having this discussion with my brother yesterday. I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm 60 years old and I've really got to stop watching Legacy.com, who died this month, because I'm like, I can't believe I'm 60. I look in the mirror and I'm like, who's the old guy staring back at me? I'm still a 14-year-old that builds models. Hi, Max. I've enjoyed your channel for about 2 years, and though you might be the main culprit who's influenced me to spend obscene amount of money on aircraft models and accessories, this wouldn't be an issue if I was already addicted to scratch building slot cars, for which I blame John Kitt, of course, over at Scale Car Garage. Your Felix Stowe build series was one of my favorites, and I decided that your lovely display could use some accessories. I thought about offering some unsolicited advice on painting these goodies, but I'm well aware that you're already an accomplished artist, and there's already an accomplished artist in the Conkey family who could provide excellent assistance. Happy New Year from Mark in Montana. And what he sent were 3 boxes of the Copper State models aircrew. And this one's naval aircrew. And I don't have my second camera going here, and this is kind of like the immense miniatures I got from Mark Tyler, except these are 1/32 scale. Okay, that plastic's in the way. Let me do not feed the carpet monster, which I think I just came up with the title of my next song. Don't fear the carpet monster, don't fear the carpet. Okay, that does not work. Oh, that is too cool. Wow, that's some nice detail. I don't know if you guys will be able to pick out any of the detail. Look at that. The headless pilot. Von Richthofen was a pilot from the land of the... Okay, let's put that away and stop singing before everybody clicks off. Run, Forrest, run. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Mark, a lot of Mark's figures pop up in the viewers builds if you want to see some of his work. And there'll be some in the next viewers build also. Let me read. Oh, switch glasses again. That's official. I'm old. The Blob gave me nightmares. The Blob never bothered me. Although, when you get around it, the Blob, in a way, is terrifying because he can get through anything. But this Island Earth, another great one. Oh, they're all the classics. I was wondering. Oh, cool. The old horror movies are the best. Yeah, I don't care for gory movies. When I saw what was it? Forming into the box. When I saw, I think it's Terror Island, where they have the experiment that goes bad, and they wind up with basically the giant cells. And I'm like, yeah, they look like turtles. They move slow. And then I see the guy hit one with an axe, and it doesn't do anything. It just sucks his bones up. I'm like, oh crap. And then they start, and I know it's just spaghetti coming out of them, but still, I'm like, oh my God, they're mutating. But the one up in the tree and up in the glass, like, oh my God, they can climb trees. Okay, 3-dimensional warfare, guys. Oh, the Quartermass films, yeah. Well, Steve McQueen was young. He needed to work. And it did kind of launch him. Yeah. Glad to know I'm not the only one that thought that, your blanket would keep you safe. I'm not watching that. Even some of the comedies scare me, like the Vampire Hunters. And, but it caught me off guard when the beginning of the Vampire Hunters, it shows the tiger, the lion doing, it's 20th Century Fox, and or not, it's MGM, and the lion, at the end the blood drops off his fang. Oh, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, I was 8. The slasher flicks don't impress me either. Although one thing I will tell you right now, and it's psychological, but most people are more scared of something sharp than they are a gun. And that makes sense, because being scared of something sharp goes all the way back to our fear of being eaten by tigers thousands and thousands of years ago. 5 million miles, yeah. You know, there are some movies that were really low budget films, but their actual concepts were pretty good, even if the model work was bad and the photography. You know, Pet Cemetery, Salem's Lot, yep. Now I gotta go watch 5 Million Years to Earth. You know, people rag on the Hammer films. I always thought they were pretty good. I love the one with the priest shooting the ice around Dracula. And like, oh, so water will do it? So, on the other thing, I was just talking. I've been reading this book, Beyond Blue Skies, and I asked Mike he offered to send me some really great images. You know, I'll just put a quick slideshow together with him here, so it'll rotate through them. Some beautiful box art images, and here we go. Hang on just a second, guys. Oh, there's that one. Okay, and hold on. Fit to screen, transform, fit to screen. Normally I'd have had all this set up ahead of time. And by the way, the Araby High did have an X number. It is an X aircraft or X vehicle. So I don't know how many of you guys built any of these. When I was a kid, I didn't. I built some. I built the X-15 for sure. And I built a couple X3s, which I always thought, even though it was the worst performing, was still the coolest of all of the X-planes, at least in looks. And reading this book, Beyond Blue Skies, which really gets into some of the nuts and bolts of this stuff once you get past the first 20 pages of setup, which you need to get the background. There's a lot of guys like Stack and a bunch of others that were integral in setting up what would become the test flight center out today. We call it Edwards. It used to be Muroc. But you guys ever notice, and I'm sure some of you have, especially model airplane builders, World War II builders, you've probably built your share of airplanes that were never fielded. Basically the X-planes of the World War II era, but the whole idea of calling them X-planes did not come out until after the war. What I think I knew, but I'd kind of forgotten, was that we all think of the X-1 that Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in as, the first of the X-planes. I mean, it was the X-1, but he did it in, I think it was October 47. But what a lot of people don't stop to think about is, just to give you an idea how far ahead we were thinking, the X-1, which was originally the XS-1, it had a Bell in-house production number for that. That thing was actually contracted by the military in 43. So we're talking about before we'd even invaded Normandy, the military and the aerospace industry, or aircraft industry, were already looking at penetrating the speed of sound. They knew that speed was life, and this is before we were running into jet fighters or anything. So everybody talks about how we lag behind because we don't have a jet, and that's true. But it's not that they weren't thinking about these things, or that it wasn't that this stuff wasn't being worked on or considered. Or, in other words, our military planners were thinking ahead. So I just thought that was an important point to bring up. So when you build an X-1, and yes, they point out that it absolutely was designed, the body was designed after the 50 caliber bullet. I actually built a model of an X3. I say I kit bashed it. I mean, I put missiles on it and put it in a tactical paint scheme. I lost it a long time ago. I lost the pictures too. I think I gave it away to some kid to, because it didn't come out that great. But I had it in the old school sort of air superiority already gray belly with the dark blue top and almost more of a Navy paint scheme. Like that thing would have ever operated for the Navy. I could see that. I'd love to see an animation of that trapping on a carrier. But anyway, so it's I've gone through the X1 and the X2. By the way, I flew with a first officer who was related to the late Mel Apt, and he was the last pilot killed in the X2. And Apt, I did not realize that he was, because the programs were running out of money and they were starting to push things together. Normally they did glide drop tests, and every pilot would fly one of these things, would, do some sort of, low speed flight with it and everything first. But in App's case, they just basically threw him into things, said go for it. And he did go past Mach 3 point something. I mean, he busted the Mach 3. The motors burned out. If he'd waited a little while to turn around, he probably went okay. But when you get going really fast like that, your tail surfaces become pretty much ineffective. And they have something called inertial roll coupling or roll coupling, where basically it's like throwing a dart with no tail. The heaviest part of the dart winds up in front. And he made a slight bank to turn back, and the plane out of control. And they're pretty sure it went so violent, they're pretty sure it knocked him out. And he did actually blow the pod off to get out, but he couldn't get out of the thing before he hit the ground. A real tragedy. But anyway, but it did go past Mach 3. Now, the Stileto's biggest problem was that it had those underpowered engines. It never had the engines it was supposed to have. That might actually be a good thing, because when the Stiletto comes back around, hey, you know what? Let me just get a picture of it, put it up here. There is something that has got to be pointed out. There's an old saying amongst the fighter pilots, and okay, everybody get your chuckles out now. You can't. There's no such thing as too much tail. The Stiletto was supposed to be a much faster airplane. There was basically an idea of, hey, can we, make a long pointy airplane so, clean that, it can bust through all these sound barriers. And they didn't area rule it, which was where you taper the waist in where the thick part of the wings is at. That was Richard Travis Whitcomb's contribution. But the point is that the X3, see how small that tail is? I can guarantee you it probably saved somebody's life, the fact they never did get the big engines for it. Because that thing had gone anywhere near as fast as they wanted it to. I'm about 99% sure it would have gone out of control with that dinky little tail. And Mike's pointing out, and he's absolutely right, no one expected Apt. Mel Apt had not flown the X2 before, which I find astonishing. Not even an empty drop test. And he was such a good pilot that he flew an extremely tricky vehicle, a perfect profile, which is why he got up past Mach 3.2, which no one had been that fast before. And they were definitely operating in the regime of we don't know what's going to happen. And he was getting really far away from the test range. It's probably why he decided to turn back. But the motors had burned out. He was in the process of decelerating, but he was still going so fast that, and once you lost that thing at that speed, there was just no getting it back. And it's sad, because from everything I've read, he was really a very first-rate pilot. But we're talking about dancing on such a fine edge. The euphemism I've heard used before is, if you want to know how delicate flying one of those things was, get on a diving board, go out to the edge. Now take a soccer ball and throw that soccer ball into the water. Now jump off that diving board, land first feet on that soccer ball, and keep it underneath you and stay on top of it till it pushes you back up to the surface. And everybody laughed. There's no way you can do that. Well, that's how fine of a point they were flying. And I'm not being, I'm not exaggerating here. That is how fine of an edge they were operating on. And this is how we learned. One of the contributions of the X3 was that it did go fast enough, and this gets back to it having that dinky little tail, of being undertailed, which is a phrase I just invented, as far as I know. And the pilot was bringing it back, and he was smoking along, coming downhill, and he made a turn in the thing, whoosh, and tried to get out of control, and whoa, he got it back. But of course, the airplane was loaded with all kinds of sensors and recording equipment. And they had him go up and repeat it a couple of times. And when he came back, they looked at it. And I think they already had an idea, but at this point, this was concrete evidence of inertial roll coupling, which again is that they said that, hey, you know what? This is what's happening to these airplanes. And it was an important, and this, Wheaties Welch is killed in the F-100. And supposedly, if you believe what's in Yeager's book, he had warned him ahead of time not to dive that thing, that the tail was too small. And it he tried to pull out and it came apart on him. And but apparently there were serious controllers. The F-100 was always a tricky plane to fly.
as were all the Century Series aircraft. Well, I do know somebody flew the F-106. He said it was actually, because it was a more mature platform, that it was actually pretty well behaved. And don't forget, as Mike Machat pointed out on his channel, that the Phantom is a Century Series airplane, because what was its original number? You know what? I'm not going to say. Somebody out there knows. I'm going to let you type it in there. And Mike, not you. You already know this. That is correct. The X3 did have a downward firing ejection seat, as did a couple of aircraft of that era, which meant below probably 1,000 feet, the thing was bloody useless. And the X aircraft, the few that had bailout systems, often were the whole cockpit would just blow off, and then you'd have to pop the hatch and get out on your own. The idea being you were going too fast to eject. Yeager made it very clear when he corked it in the X1A, and I've listened to him, and I'm sure most of us have. I've listened to him talk about what happened and what mistakes were made. And to his credit, he owned it. But again, flying on that ragged edge. But he made it very clear that if he'd had an ejection seat, he would have used it. He brought that airplane back because he had to. And there you go, F-110, F-110 Spectre. I knew you guys would get it. The F-111, I guess, would be the only higher Century Series airplane. But there we go. Yeah, they're all rolling in now. I knew you. I had faith. So, but the X3 did make some contributions, even though they weren't the contributions it was designed for. And it's also one of the few X-planes that took off on its own, wasn't airdropped. And that was, the book talks about how that was a whole thing, both with the Douglas 558 and the X-1s and everything. I think one of the X-1s did make one powered takeoff, kind of just to show they could do it. But now, speaking of the Douglas products, let me just turn that off and go back here. Now, I've seen the 558, the Douglas 558-1 and -2, called the Sky Streak. The -1 I saw, I think, at the Naval Museum, and the -2s at the Air and Space. And if I remember right, it was the first one to hit Mach 2. Now, you'll notice something about this airplane right off the bat. You will notice that this has intakes right there in front of the landing gear. It actually had a jet engine and rocket engines, although there was a later version that was rocket engine only. And it was, I'd love to find this kit. Of course, I'd love to find all these kits. That's something they should repop. But the 558 -1 was a straight wing machine. The 558-1 -2 do not look anything alike. I was kind of surprised they kept the same project name, but because they're completely different machines. But now I wanted to talk about box art for a second, because I don't think, and again, this is just me, I don't think there's anything more romantic than these old box arts that show this rakish jet, no support equipment nearby. You just see the pilot and the airplane. And with that, just that deep azure blue sky and the perfectly tan sand and the buildings off the back. As a kid, this would have made me buy this kit. And I wouldn't, I'm sitting here looking at the picture. I don't even know what I'm buying a model of. I just know that looks cool and I want to be that guy. And it makes me feel like Cartoon World is so much nicer than the real world. Or not Cartoon World, but, the painted world captures a romance that the real world lacks. And I'm sure Mike could probably get into the psychology behind it. And I just noticed one of the things as many times I've looked at this box art, never noticed before. If you look forward to the leading edge of the wing, you'll see where it's just this bright white, which of course is supposed to be the reflection of the sun. And I'm not sure, it never registered with me before, but it contrasts with the green of the interior of the cockpit. And I don't even know if the interior of the cockpit on the thing was actually green. And the guy's flight suit and everything else, which is probably one of those wrap-tight pressure suits. Oh, God, those things were uncomfortable. They did. Oh, they did. I'll have to go find one. DG's saying that they did repop it a couple of years ago. Oh, $20 on eBay. But to me, this box art it's a fourth wall break because the tail sticks into the Revell logo. And you guys may, I'm sure all of you guys have seen Mike's thing on box art that he just put out recently. If you haven't, that's a homework assignment. Go watch it as soon as you're done here because it's great. But the red, the blue, the white, the yellow, and there's something about yellow that just makes it jump out at you. But this thing, it's like the Renwall kits, the blueprint kits, where the kits, the model is half, the paint work shows the item you're buying, the tank or whatever, halfway in a battlefield looking situation, but halfway on a blueprint table. And you look at that, and there was just something about that grabbed me. And I don't know if the artists who did this, if this was like, hey, let's consult a psychologist, or if it was just their native understanding of what people want to see. I guess that's why they're called artists. But to me, this is a really first-class box art. I don't know who did this. Mike, maybe if you know who did that box art. I'm not even going to guess. And speaking of that, let's go on to another one. All the box arts he sent me to use today are amongst my favorites, the ones you saw scrolling earlier. Let's look at this one now, the Araby. This is almost going to sound unfair. I am sure that wearing a chemical suit like that in the high desert has got to be a hot, sweaty, uncomfortable thing. But when I first saw this box art, I was like, man, I wish I was one of those guys getting to work on that thing. Of course, you got the technician on the right who's not wearing any protective equipment at all. So I'm not sure what the story was supposed to be there. But there was just something about that. These things catch an almost, for lack of a better way to put it, that I think they touch on the same kind of, I guess, maybe this isn't the right word, romantic part of your brain that science fiction movies do. I realize that it's art, it's fantasy. The sky isn't actually yellow. Well, I don't know, maybe it's sunset, maybe it is. But this kind of box art just leaps out at me. It would make, I actually did make me want to buy the product. About 10 years ago, I wanted to buy one of these that was an original, and what the people wanted for it was stupid. And all of these kits were selling for stupid money on eBay, even the repops. I think it's finally calmed down. And that was Dick Cashotti. Okay. All right. And his ball cap's not on backwards. He's the first red shirt. He's expendable. Non-union labor, baby. But again, the artwork does its job. Now, you would normally expect someone selling a model missile to have it standing erect like the Beaumark and flying off the pad, which would seem to be the way to sell the missile. Ironically, here you've got this horizontal box that has a horizontal picture, and it works. And somehow, maybe it's my love of sunsets, but it worked on me. And they sold a lot of these things. And let's see what else we got here. I think you gotta watch me. I could talk about box art all day long. Let's see. Okay, and of course, this goes without saying. And yes, we know the X-15 and the moon. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that this is a Linwood painting, because it looks like it's got some of his cheats. That's cramming the box, especially with the tail section, the perspective and everything, the whole idea of being in space, looking at the moons, but it still makes me want to buy the kit. And I'm going to say that is, the mark of true artistry. I mean, Jack said in print, I've read it several times, I'm not an artist, I'm an illustrator. I don't think there's ever been anyone around who understood the mission of the box art illustrator better than Jack. And I know he trained a lot of people. Some of you guys who have contacted me, including Mike, had the privilege of knowing him. And I really wish I could have met him, because he sounds like my kind of guy. But anyway, he made the tail too small. And if he made the tail too small, he did it for a reason. And probably because it looked cool. And because it would make 8-year-old Max want to buy that. And since he brought that up, you know what? Let's do a little comparison here, because there's an Aurora one in here also. Hold on, where is it? Let me just Give me just here we go. Now, here's the Aurora one, which, by the way, is also a really good one. Give me a second. Just confirm it. Transform, fit to screen. Okay, make it a little smaller. Now, I got to admit, both of those make me want to buy the kit. Now, for my money, the Aurora one is more quote-unquote accurate, primarily in that it shows a thing just on the edge of space. You don't see the giant moon out there. And there are different versions of the X-15, because you'll notice Jack's has the spike with the red and white nose, and I guess the other one has what they call it, the ball nose. Okay, one quick thing about X aircraft. No two were the same. Even if you had there were 3 X-1s made, and they were not identical. There were several X-15s made. They were all different. Every one of them was basically handmade to whatever the goal of the next plane or the next mission was. They were optimized for that. Technology was advancing at a rapid rate. So they made a lot of changes to the each and by the way, not only was each airframe different, but also the same airframe frequently got modified a lot of times. The third X-1, which you guys remember Yeager's had the flush, the X-1 that he flew Glamorous Glennis, which I think was actually the second one off the production line. Anyway, this book gets into it. It gets a little confusing. One of them was a Hangar Queen because they had all kinds of problems. They didn't work out. And they had different wings also. One of them had like a 8% chord wing. Other had a 10% chord. Basically, one had a thick wing, one had a thin wing. And they were all different. And they would modify them. And one of them, which was one of the flush ones like Yeager flew, they sent it back to the factory. They extended the fuselage. They put a Sky Streak style canopy on it. It became the X-1E, which doesn't look very much like a straight X-1, but that's what it started life as. So these things got highly modified. Matt was saying that there are comics artists who have tried to make a career of trying to capture the feeling of box art of this era. I like that. Okay. When we put the movie 50,000 Miles from Earth. Well, that would have made Apollo a lot easier. We could have gone there in a Mercury. But yeah, the moon's way too big, but there's something about it. If you guys have ever been to the Air and Space Museum, there's a giant space mural painted up there, which has the astronauts standing on some planet which is moon inspired, but all the planets and everything nearby are way too close. Everything's that, but I just love it. The astronauts always pose in front of it when they're there, and there's something almost mystic about it. The idea that these celestial bodies are closer is extremely intriguing, and you're absolutely right. Again, it's got all the classic Linwoodisms, or cheats, and they work because Jack understood he wasn't there to make a technically accurate painting. This isn't technical drawing. He was there to sell kit models. And he has some of the most exciting stuff. His cram the box philosophy, and nobody wants to see wingtips. Nobody cares about wingtips. I love that because he understands. Well, I got the impression that Jack might have just kind of been an overgrown kid because he certainly understands how we kids thought. And by we kids, I mean me now, and probably most of us here. But man, don't ever let the little kid in you die, folks. Build until you can't build no more. Yeah, the X-15 is definitely one of the coolest space planes, and this book is talks about. Now, I never had a chance. I missed my opportunity to meet Scott Crossfield. He actually came to the airport that I instructed at. I didn't know he was coming. I was gone that day, and they were having one of those I think it was AOP or FAA seminar things at this little airport in Maryland. It was Maryland Airport, and which is just south of D.C. And I'm sorry that I missed him. And sadly, that wasn't long before he was killed. And for those who don't know, Scott Crossfield is a legendary. Still is a legendary test pilot. He passed away now, but his death was. He was killed flying a Cessna 210, and apparently they went into a thunderstorm, and he had 5 passengers with him, and they all perished. He was, I think, 80 years old, and I was like, that's just, here you are doing all this incredible stuff out in the Mojave Desert, where they killed like 15 test pilots in 8 years or something. And I was, everybody was like, gosh, that's hard to believe. So the old saying that if you get killed in bad weather, your funeral will be on a sunny day. But then I read this book, and I never met the guy. So I'm only, to be careful, I'm only telling you what I've read. But apparently there were some personality issues, and he was very sure of himself. And I'll just leave it at that. And, you guys can do your own research on that. But it's one of those things but I heard him give online give a lecture, and he was talking about the X. And I went there to go hear. He was talking about he had some very strong ideas about the X-15, and I think he may have been right. He says if we had, now you got to understand, the X-15 was all of these aircraft were built to accomplish a specific goal. The X-15 was designed to do certain things, give us data for going into space. It was never intended to be a quote-unquote space plane as in routine operation, but he'd flown the thing extensively, always the professional, and he was very clear that the platform had potential, had it been expanded on, to go on into to evolve into perhaps a real space plane, and he would know. It's but a lot. I can make a lot of hate if I say this the wrong way, even if I say it the right way. I grew up in the space era. I loved Apollo, Gemini, the whole thing, the astronauts, the X-planes, the work. I ate that like it was soup. I still do. But there is an argument to be made that if we hadn't been in such a rush to beat the Russians to the moon and had a more matured program, that we might have had something that could have kept going over time. As Gene Cernan, the last man on the moon, said, in Apollo, we reached and stole a decade out of the 21st century. And we got a lot out of it. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. And computer technology, video chip technology, there are so many things that were pushed so far, so fast by all of this. But, and there's always the but, it ate up 16% of the U.S. economy. Although that money, of course, gets circulated back into the economy. It's not like it turned into vapor, and we got something for our money. I didn't realize this until recently, and when I read it, I didn't want to believe it, so I went ahead and checked a couple other sources. It's hard to believe because virtually every documentary you see shows everybody going, ooh, rah, sis, boom, bah, behind the space program, but that was not the reality on the ground. When Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, as thrilled as the world was, only 48% of Americans were what you would call stalwart space supporters. About an equal number thought, no, that money could be best spent elsewhere. And then there was a percentage that was on the fence. And after we'd gone to the moon, people were like, why are we dumping all this money into this? And all of these programs are always fighting for funds because all of this stuff is really expensive. The cheapest part of owning an X-15 is buying one from Aurora. But it did get done, and we did do it. And if you hear everybody say, we never landed on the moon, you have my permission to knock them off their bar stool. But anyway, and now I can't deny that I said that it's on the interweb and the great machine knows. Oh well. So that's just kind of a cold water reality check that not everybody loves what we love, and Rob Altus, unfortunately, current generation doesn't seem to value anything before 2000. There's more truth in those words than you know. But, here, I'm sorry. I went through all of that to get to here. I almost forgot to make the salient point. Well, as salient as I get. At the time that we landed on the moon, 69, they said that 18% of Americans did not believe we'd really done it. Thought it was a sham or hoax or whatever. Now you hear all the hoaxers and all this other stuff. People are like, they're destroying the... Turns out surveys done show that today, the number of people who still don't believe or doubt that we landed on the moon, 18%. So I guess maybe some things are fairly constant, depending on your source. Anyway, so I want to give a big shout out to Mike Machat for sending me these high-res pictures. They are absolutely beautiful. God, I love this artwork. I'm going to probably get a T-shirt that says I'm a Linwoodite and see how many people, if anybody ever knows what I'm talking about, I'll buy them a drink. Now, better not wear that to a model show. Somebody there will get the joke. But I think this is made by the lowest bidders. Yeah, but don't forget the lowest bidder was still fully qualified. So, there's that. Oh, you know what? Let me put that back for just a second. I had a thought, and this kind of dovetails on what we were just talking about a while back with the Thunderchild. Fan box art. Now, I know the Box Art Den, which if you have not been there, you have absolutely got to go check it out. The Box Art Den, they do a lot of these high-res box art and stuff, and great website. I spend a lot of time out there. Always love when something new comes out. These guys are really dedicated to it. And they have, could have been, should have been, would have been model box art. And I was thinking, I know some of you guys have some artistic talents. So either Photoshop or just general artwork. So if at any point any of you guys have always had that model you wish somebody made, gin up some box art for it and, put logos on it and stuff and send it to me, and I'll air it on one of the viewers' bills or live streams or something. I know some of you guys, probably somebody out there watching right now has already done that one time. And I not only pass no judgment, I salute you if you have. God, I have really got to learn to write where I can read my own writing. Oh, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Jim Keeler. You guys may or may not know, but Atlantis Models is putting out the first Keeler's Customs, and Jim's under the weather now, so I just wanted to I wanted to just say hey and hope you're feeling better and get well soon. Life of Broken Ships. Is that? Hold on. Time to switch glasses. God. Man, you guys may remember Jack Palance did a commercial years ago for AARP, where we're growing old. It ain't for sissies. I'm starting to really appreciate that. Life of... Okay, I don't know what this is about. Life of Broken Ships? Okay. Anyway, on to other things. I know you guys already know this. I got the pirate ship done, and okay, I'm trying to again. Oh, shoot, I gotta switch back to the other glasses. I thought I had a picture of it here. Okay, let's go hunting. Well, somewhere in here. Okay. Transform. Fit to screen. All right. I finished the pirate ship, as you guys know. And you know what? We've been going at this for an hour. We're going to take a quick intermission. Who's old enough to remember intermissions? And I'll be back momentarily because I need to get something to... I need a cool, refreshing beverage. See you guys in just a minute.
Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight. Just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bichat for sending me these images, and we're gonna get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance. So, hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight, just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bichat for sending me these images, and we're gonna get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but woo. But anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. Really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance. So,
All right, and we're back. How'd you guys like that crappy green screen? I threw that together just literally about 17 minutes before I came on air. I was meant to do it earlier today. B24, build a model. Yeah, Put some rum in the Coke and I'll join you. Yeah, not rum tonight. Not tea either. Giggity. Oh yeah, I think I remember that box art, the Palesti looking box art. Now, getting back to what I was talking about. Oop, that's not it. Go back up to the top. The sailing vessel. Now, I thought I would, just for the, and I know some of you guys know more about these ships than I do, but this is the, I did use the thread that they gave us. By the way, I've trimmed off some of these pieces since then, but you have sheets, lines, and stays, and it can get a little confusing as to what is what, but basically, if you pull it or tug it, it's a sheet, and if it stays permanently in place to hold something up, it's a stay because it helps it stay in place. If it's square, it's a yard, and it's triangular, it's a sail, and if it's got that weird rhomboid looking shape, it is a gaff sail, if I remember correctly. And everything on a ship's got to have a name, and there are a lot of parts, and they get into all kinds of stuff. You got belaying pins and futtock shrouds and jibs and blah, 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 and it just goes on and on. Now, with that lesson aside, one thing I notice is you'll notice on the forward jibs, especially the lower one, it's got this weird angle to the sheet, and it comes off the bottom of the jib, and then it goes up at an angle. It was supposed to be straight, and I didn't catch it all after it's done. One of the problems you run into with these things is if you're building a sailing vessel, and Bruce, if you're here, you can chime in on this. Rob Atlas. Okay, send it to maxismodels@yahoo.com for the Karmer build. You know what? I'll just tap it in here real quick. You don't have to capitalize it. It does that automatically. Maxis Models at... I know, I break my train of thought all the time. Okay. There's the... Okay. Yeah, maxismodels@yahoo.com, but don't capitalize it for send stuff for the Karmer build. So anyway, if you're going to build something like this, of course, you got to remember those masts are just plastic. They're going to bend so it really helps to get the stays balanced if you can, make sure they're pulling off both ends to help keep things straight, and don't put too much pressure on anything. I look at these ships that Bruce over at Mystic Modeler Ships builds. By the way, he moved down here to Florida, so he's not far away now. I need to go over and visit him at some point. But what is the poop deck? That is the aft deck. I have heard stories that they call it the poop deck because he used to poop off of it, but I don't think so, because if you look on the forward part of the ship, you'll see the masthead, the little statue. And that's where people actually went to the bathroom off the side of the ship, up at the bow at the masthead, which is tied to this day we call a toilet ahead. How about our Glue Trooper flight? Will Goodwill tour of the Okay, since you brought that up, that was all I had to say about the sailing ships. This has been a real education. I'll probably wind up doing another one at some point. But what I was going to advise was, if you build this kit, and I know at least 2 or 3 of you guys have them because you sent me pictures of your Christmas stash. This is my personal advice. First off, pre-paint everything, okay? I mean, you can put the hull together, but before you start putting masts and sails on, make sure everything you want painted is painted, which kind of a no-brainer. Secondly, build up your yards and yard arms before you mount them on the ship. And thirdly, I would put those ratlins on last, because it's a lot easier to rig those things with those not being in the way. That being said, the ratlins, if you look down at the bottom, this picture can't really show it properly, but at the bottom of the ratlins are which are the webbed looking lines. At the bottom where it goes through this wooden brace into the hull of the ship. Now, this is all plastic. I'm going to recommend you pre-bend and pre-fit everything carefully, and it might actually be easier to clip those bottom parts off, mount the upper ratlins, and just glue the other ones back in place. That's my 2 cents. 3 sheets to the wind, yes. As I understand it, 3 sheets to the wind. Now, the sheet, as I mentioned, is one of the lines that moves or pulls something. And apparently, when these ships would get up, if they caught a good wind and got up around 10, 11, 12 knots, it would scare members of the crew, because these old things weren't really designed to go that fast. They would cut the 3 upwind sheets, which would cause the yards to lose air. The top sails would take over. The ships would rock back and forth when that happened. So if a man was drunk and was rocking back and forth, he was 3 sheets to the wind. That's the way it was explained to me. Take it for what it's worth. It's worth everything you're paying for it. It's going to tick me off. I've got this note here. Life of broken ships. Oh, well, it was a thought I had, and I didn't write it down clearly because that's how I roll. So, my father says I always spend money like a drunken sailor. That reminds me of a great quip by the late Ronald Reagan, where, and I'm not trying to get political here, but it's just a joke. And he said that he was talking about the other party. He was Republican, the other party, the Democrats. And he says, I've heard it said that Democrats spend money like a drunken sailor. That's not fair to drunken sailors. Drunken sailors spend their own money. This is my 4th Jolly Roger kit. Well, send me some pictures of it then. It's I'm impressed with it. I mean, there is a lot of little bits of flash you got to get off of it, but yeah, freeze the balls off a brass monkey. Brass monkey was a thing that held the cannonballs, and when they went to the climes that were extremely cold, the brass would shrink, the balls would fall off, and it was cold enough to freeze the balls off a brass monkey. Yeah, the Vampire. The Vampire actually was a pretty good airplane for given when it was made. I think John Travolta was actually looking at buying one at one point. I think he flew it, but decided not to get it. You have to remember those old engines. They had a lot of spool time on them. That's why if you ever watch the Bridges Tokaree, you notice the jets come in and land. They've got the engines turned up. They got the flaps gear hooked down, but they also have the speed brakes down. That's the thing sticking off the belly. And so if they had to go around, you didn't firewall the throttle. It was already up there. You just closed the speed brakes. That's how you got instant power delivery. And even on the jet I fly, there's a little bit of lag, but of course it's gotten a lot better over time. But those old centrifugal flow engines that basically just had the big wheel in the middle that spun and was really heavy. It took on a 727 captain told me that the minimum spool time on the engine was 7 seconds. So if you firewall, you did not get power delivery for 7 seconds. And there were some cases it could take as long as 13. And that's enough time for bad things to happen if you get yourself boxed in a corner. What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do? I'm a modeler and I'm okay. I'm going to have to actually write some lyrics for that now, Daryl. Are you listening? Now, what else did I have to go? Let's see. Image. There were some other things I wanted to talk about tonight. Of course, you guys can, whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about. Green screen. That was another thing. You guys remember my little green screen picture from the viewer's build. Well, I thought I would just throw a few little bits and bobs about photographing models in general. Now, I know that there are some of you out there that recently acquired light boxes, which are going to make things a lot easier. Trust me on this. This is a picture, if I can find it real quick here. Okay, Max's Okay, here is a picture of the sailing vessel taken in a light box. And you'll notice that there's very little shadow. There's a little gray underneath it, but overall it's pretty evenly lighted. The light box has strings of lights. Now you can put a different color background on there if you want, but the strength of the light box is that it will illuminate the model pretty well from all angles, making it very easy to take photographs. And with advancements in cell phones these days, crap, it's hard. You know, I've got a nice expensive camera. It's hard for me to compete with the pictures I take with my cell phone. But one thing I do recommend, lighting is as crucial to photography as paint is to a model. And I do recommend that you are better off to back off some. Make sure there's a lot of light on it, not too harsh from one angle, preferably from multiple angles, even a little bit behind it. But it's better to take the photo from way back than it is to get in too close, because it makes it easier to focus. It can absorb more light. If you have an option, I would say take the photograph from further back. By the way, the standard YouTube screen that I use is 16:9. So if you have that setting on your phone or your camera, 16:9, I would say use that. And don't worry if you think you're too far back. I can always crop the photo down. But good lighting, that's the key to a good photo. It makes the colors pop. And it kind of breaks my heart. I've had some people send photos of beautifully made models, but they were a little blurry, or the lighting wasn't very good, and you really were not able to appreciate. Higher resolution helps, but by itself, you've got to have the light to make it work. And lighting is life. Think of it that way. So I just thought I would throw that out there for you. If you decide you want to throw something up against a green screen, my recommendation is try to be at least 7 feet away from the green screen, the item that's being photographed, to prevent spill. If you look at that video I made, it has a lot of spill in it, where the green reflects into stuff. If you can put a small light between the item that's being photographed and the green screen, it kind of puts a sharp edge of light on things and helps prevent spill. But I spent a lot of time studying green screen, and even with the computer program I've got, which is actually pretty good, it still gets, if it isn't lit just right. Go watch any movie, and in the credits you'll see chroma key lighting as one of the things. There'll be a dozen names of a lot of people whose sole job was to light things for the chroma key. And these are people who have the best computers and red dot cameras and everything else. So don't feel bad if your photography skills aren't that great, but lots of light, back off, read the manual on your camera if you got one. But modern cell phones have made it a lot easier. This is a cell phone photograph. Be honest with you, half the stuff I do, except for my regular videos where I'm in front of a regular video camera, which is fairly cheap on a $250 camera. Although I did realize I had the resolution set kind of low recently. You may have noticed recently a couple of the after hours videos have been a little sharper. I upped the resolution on it. But point I'm getting at is that it's getting really hard to compete with just good old fashioned cell phones these days. They really are. They have gotten amazing. The technology in them has gotten kind of stupid. I don't know if you guys know this, but modern cell phones, and I didn't realize this until just very recently, modern cell phones have they're taking the picture before you hit the button, and they keep taking it after you're done. And when you click, they're kind of like recording all the time. When you click, they're going, save this. But they're making calculations for light and focus and everything else all the time. And they even have you can even buy apps now that you can take like 1 frame per second, and they will figure out what's supposed to be in between, and they will basically make up an animation to go in between. I'm thinking, if I could get that to work, that means you could take various photographs of your models and hit that, and it would kind of do a stop motion for you without all of the 30 or 60 movements per second required, which takes all day, and that could change a lot of things. Assuming you wanted to do that. Now, back to the movie models. Max, racing around this thing because everybody enjoys watching you do it in real time. Okay. This just never gets old. I found a bunch of backstage photos of Subaraya, and I thought they were pretty cool. But you guys, if you've never seen the movie, and it was a Japanese wartime propaganda film that Subaraya was involved in which he was later kind of ashamed of. Well, don't be ashamed of it. You were a patriot. You were doing your thing for your country. But it was called the Pacific War from Hawaii, the Battle of Hawaii to Malay. And, of course, these are not photos from that. But actually, you know what? I think I do have some photos from it. Let me see real quick. I'm going to use that photo later. Let's see. Here we go. Here it is. Yes. Okay. No, that's not it. Well, that's Subaraya on the right with a big model Mustang, which, judging by the big glow plug engine sticking out of the top, I'm assuming they were using an RC, but I don't know if that was a kit or not. But that actually is not the photo I was looking for. Okay. Stand by. We're experiencing technical difficulties. There it is. Got it. Okay. Yeah. These are from that movie, from the Battle of Hawaii to Malay. And this was made in Japan during the war. And this is the one that Subaraya was later, said he was kind of ashamed of for making propaganda films. People forget that the Japanese movie industry was restricted for years after the war what they could make. Even when Godzilla was made, they had to be very careful about the censors. Now, on the upper left, these are the models, which are made of wood. If you look center top, you'll see the model of Pearl Harbor that they made. This was so good that when Douglas MacArthur, the lower left, you see the battle scenes. This is so good that when all the ones along the bottom, Hickam Field, Pearl Harbor, when MacArthur saw this and captured copy of this film mid-war, he thought it was actual archival footage. He didn't realize it was all done with miniatures. And the upper right is from the movie where they were sinking the Repulse and the Prince of Wales. Now, So if you ever wonder why in the kaiju films the model work was so good, at least during the Subaraya period, there you go. Every one of those ships was carved out of wood. I assume they were built up like regular model ships with frames and not carved out of block wood. But even though they were only going to appear on the camera at a distance, you can see the detail that went into them. And can you imagine what one of the... Hey, John, glad you made it. John from Fast Sports from Scale Car Garage is here. We were talking about you earlier, John, but we were saying nice things. And but you look at these models, these were just made in their model shop department, during the war and carved out from, and they probably didn't have 2 or 3 photographs of every ship, or maybe some archival, maybe some film footage from the battle, but they created a ridiculously accurate copy of Pearl Harbor. In fact, I think it was in the 70s, one of them visited Pearl Harbor and went back and looked at the movie, and Subaru was thrilled when he called him, I just came back from Pearl Harbor and you got everything right. That is just model making at the industrial level. You look at it, it's made at the industrial level, how fast and how large they can make all this. But it's done with great skill and care. These people clearly took great pride in what they were doing. And I'm very impressed with that. But you can get the feel of the later kaiju movies with that because it's the exact same technique. And of course, 8 years after the war, they're making all of this. And I don't know. This stuff just never gets old with me. I think the love of the art and everything is that these guys are just really great at what they did. It would be an interesting guy to have a chat with, or I'd love to spend an hour in their model shop just watching the people work. And some of the stuff gets a little silly, but still, it's the model work that I'm impressed with. Not so much the suit work. But anyway. So, guys, now it's your turn. What do you guys... something I had chatted with a person. Do you guys remember when Renwall made their series of concept cars? They put out, I think it was 6 of them. Let me see if I can get a picture real quick. I forgot. Ran out of time to get one. Renwall concept car. Oops. Car. Image. Okay. Rental. Okay, that. Not even close. Jesus. Oh, the internet fails me. Pretty sure it was Renwall. Here we go. Found it. Okay. Come on. Open up. Okay, what's the deal here? It's not... Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Google just died on me. Let's try that again. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Copy image. That should be, you know what, this may all be slowed down because I'm gobbling up so much bandwidth here. But let me see. File. Paste. Crop. Oh, that's a tiny one. Oh, that ain't going to look good. Anyway. Exner, yeah, the Exner concept copy image. Let's try this again. Now it's a little bigger. File, save as, concept. Okay, let me bring this up to you. I don't know, I think this is going to be a small picture, but some of you guys are already familiar with where I'm going with this. There it is. Okay, these were a series of cars that were put out by Renwall that were based on concept cars. And I had chatted with somebody who's in the industry a while back and said that, if I actually started making, Max's models, started making models, I would, because I don't think any of these are copyright protected. I'm thinking, I just find all the old concept cars and make those because people love that stuff. I mean, Christ, there's some of those cars I would have bought if they'd ever made it to, that Jordan Playboy or the Bugatti, if I could afford even the Stutz. I mean, they all kind of look pretty freaking cool. And not only they started on cars like the Futura, which, some concept cars did get made. But there's that one thing with Jordan over it was a Chrysler that, let me see if Chuck Jordan had this wicked cool long car, like an overgrown Tornado. And it, there it is, right there. Now, TD, this is the guy that hired Tom Daniel. Let me just, okay, paste, crop, file, save as Chuck Jordan. Okay, save. Tell me that if you saw this on the dealership floor, that if you could afford it, you would not have bought it. Let me get it loaded up here. Ding. Hold on. Almost there. Almost there. Okay, oh, there it is. Okay. Tell me you wouldn't buy that car. I mean, that could be the frickin' Batmobile. And that's Chuck Jordan, by the way. And I know that Exner fell out of favor with some of these people, and I don't think that was an Exner design. But you look at some of these concept cars they had, and you're like, why did you not put that into production? You have any idea how many gazillion of those you would have sold? I mean, that thing you look up the word cool in the dictionary, and that's what's probably sitting behind it. I'm sorry, John, GM. Thank you, GM. I said Chrysler, I meant GM. I get confused in my old age. Oh, yeah, the T of the Thunderbirds, absolutely. I'll bet you, if somebody made, for real, a production version of Penelope's car from Thunderbirds, you would not be able to keep them on the lot. It would probably earn the reputation as the most stolen car in America. Only after Land of the Giants, the Spindrift. Okay, completely shifting gears. Angelix talking about Kermit's Tempest. I knew he was working on one. I didn't think he was anywhere near being done. He had like the only running engine for that. There was a Napier Sabre, I believe. Well, Kermit knows what he's doing, so I'll leave it to him. But, that airplane was extremely tricky to get started, and they had to wear their oxygen mask all the time because so much carbon monoxide pumped into the cockpit. I had this discuss again, because it's the kind of stuff I bother my FOs with. I kind of, make them listen. I'm the captain. You will listen to my opinion and you will agree. Yes, my liege. But I was thinking that, I'll give Exner credit. He knew how to update an old brand. I'll guarantee those cars would fly off the lots today. In fact, that gets to the point I was getting at, and Steve knows what I'm talking about here. Because, accountants make the world go round and lawyers dictate the direction. I love that. That is sadly so true. We all know that cars have gotten into aerodynamics. Okay, fine. I get it. Efficiencies and all that other good stuff. I totally understand. Everybody wants to have a fuel efficient car. But, there's something to be said for style. And the one thing, even though they're aerodynamically efficient, the one thing that most modern cars lack, and I don't think this is any earth-shaking technology, I'm not including like the new Corvette, but a lot of cars lack style. Look, you can make a family car look cool. I mean, probably that Pierce Arrow or that Packard have got more room in them than the modern family car. They certainly. I remember I got into a 46 Dodge that a friend of mine's dad had, and sadly the gentleman recently passed away. But I remember getting in the back of that thing, and I literally got in it. I was like, I picked my foot up, and I could not touch the seat in front of me. This wasn't a limo or anything. It was just a 46 Dodge. That thing was the size of a tank, made out of solid steel. But I was like, man, there's enough room in here. Well, that's why you could do so many things. There's that famous Norman Rockwell painting of the family coming back from a day at the beach, and everybody's so tuckered out and tired. And then this god-awful huge station wagon, but there was room for all their stuff. And it also, that 46 Dodge also had a trunk that was on the last of the high-rise trunks. And I learned why those old cars had those short high-rise trunks on them. It was for the old milk jugs that were like 5 gallons or whatever that were real tall. And it was so you could put 2 of those in the back. Like, oh, okay. So that was a form follows function. And but the milk jugs went out of style, so the trunks were changed. And this guy had built. He had a garage full of cars that he built himself. He had forgotten more about cars than most of us will ever know. Although I know some of you guys that doesn't apply to, but still. He was always bending a wrench. Man, was one of the most mechanically inclined people I ever saw. Real easygoing, mellow guy. Very, very quiet. Very the opposite of me. I was always pestering him. What do you do? He helped me replace the brakes on my 77 Malibu. And, God, I miss that car. I know. 77 Malibu was a good looking piece of junk. That car broke down on me so many times, but God, I loved it so. It was, as you guys know, the Malibu was a package that went on the Impala. So it was basically an Impala. It had a great air conditioner, blow snowballs, AM radio. Actually, it had AM, FM, but it had the buttons on it. But I don't know. If I could take that body and drop like an LS2 in it, with a good transmission, then you'd have yourself a car. I met Kermit a couple of times. I've met him twice. So once I went down to Fantasy of Flight, which is 2.5 hours down the road from here. And one time I bumped it. Well, I shouldn't say I spoke to him. I saw him at Lakeland. He'd flown in the Mosquito, the Mossy. And when I went to see him, when I went out to Plains of Fame, he was flying the Red Tails P-51C Mustang. And a P-51C is just a P-51D that was made in Texas instead of Long Beach. But whatever you think of Kermit, and I mean, I have no problem with the guy. He's, as far as I'm concerned, he is keeping aviation, the thing, alive, and he's doing what he can to try and give back a little bit. He's trying to turn Fantasy of Flight more into a family, sort of a theme park destination, because he realizes not very many people are coming out to see the airplanes. I get it. Malibu was a Chevelle? God, Rob, you're crushing my world. I always thought it was based on the Impala. Oh well, still loved it. Cars of the 50s were known as bludgemobiles for a reason. Population growth notwithstanding. Hey, come on. We all know. Half of the baby boomers were baby boomed in the back of a, all-American car that had some room. You ain't doing that in a Yugo. Oh, did he give it to the EA Museum? Good. Yeah, Kermit a couple of years ago, he hit 60 a few years ago, and he passed. He made a video where he's talking about, he realizes he's not going to last forever, and he doesn't want the collection just to get parted out and so he's trying to make sort of a self-sustaining long-term kind of thing out of Fantasy of Flight. I wish him luck. I'm not super optimistic about it. Not that I think what he's doing is wrong at all. I greatly support it. The problem that we're running into, the same thing, of course, Powell Island had, I think, considerably more resources, but the problem you're running into is generational. We love these old machines and we remember them. We knew people who flew them or drove them, Everybody, probably almost everybody watching. I'll bet you, what have we got here? According to this, I got 120 people watching. I lost 3 people. 120 people watching right now, which, by the way, I am completely blown away by, and extremely grateful, by the way, I should add. But point I'm getting at is that I'll bet everyone here knows somebody who fought in World War II, or knew somebody who fought in World War II. We listened to their stories. They were real to us. But to our kids and our grandkids, talking about the Battle of the Bulge, you might as well be talking about Shiloh or the War of 1812. And that's just the strong march of time. Occasionally they'll think an airplane is cool because they'll see it in a movie, which, let's be honest, and this gets back to one reason model building is so important. And I'm going to make a bit of an extraneous loop here. I don't know if extraneous is the word, but I'm going to make a bit of a loop here. And maybe I'm stretching a point, but camera Max, keep your finger out of your ear. So here's where I'm getting at. The mythos, the things that we hold dear, often come from that big, beautiful silver screen. More people know the story of Luke Skywalker than know the story of George Washington, Queen Elizabeth, or Napoleon. Okay? Like it or not, the American myth of the cowboy was born, well, not born, but became commonplace thanks to the silver screen. If it had not been for movies, people like Tom Mix and later John Wayne would never have made the impact on the world they did. But because of the silver screen and its ability to convey a message and storytelling is extremely important. Going back to the first cave paintings and cavemen trying to, tell stories to their children that somehow got passed down. That's where myths come from. This is why theater was so important to the Romans and to the Greeks. Our techniques may be more modern, and eventually someday something like Star Trek holodecks will make a theater look as primitive as Greek theater looks to us. But we bring it to life largely in models because it is a way to cost effectively recreate, and you have history to tell your story in a way that's interesting and people gravitate towards, because people are naturally curious. But they want to be entertained. If you can teach someone history through entertainment, then do it. Unfortunately, that also results in a lot of misinformation, a lot of bogus ideas about the past based on that same entertainment. When you make models, or when Hollywood uses models to make a story exciting, that's great. When they use CGI, it's basically a cartoon. I made the mistake yesterday of watching the intro to Red Tails. Oh, God. It was so bad. Every bloody cliche, technically inaccurate, but it looked like a cartoon. I'm interested in the subject matter, and I couldn't stay interested in it. But then you watch Tora Tora Tora. Real airplanes, beautiful model work. You have 40-foot long models that looked real. You've got to pull the people in. That means it's got to be convincing. And there's nothing like a true tactile thing that reflects natural light in the natural way. Now I'll admit CGI has come a long way, and there are some things you can do with it you're just not going to get away with models. But I found out, much to my surprise, we just watched, I forget what it was, but that's how important it was. But at the end, it showed the list of digital animators, and it had to be 300 names on there. And I was thinking to myself, you watch an older movie, the model unit's 20, 30 guys. And apparently it's still cheaper to use models than CGI in a lot of cases, for a lot of reasons. But model building is important to telling the story in Hollywood. And Hollywood and that big silver screen is how the mythos begins. I remember reading a book years ago that was an American POW in a Japanese prison camp. And they had one guard that they all kind of liked because he didn't mistreat him. He was a Japanese soldier. And he was kind of their version of Schultz. But he loved American culture. And he would make all these little motions like riding a horse and try to hand something. And what it was, he was a big fan of Tom Mix, the cowboy actor, who, by the way, is a distant relation to my buddy Ken Mix, who occasionally has done the show with me here. And in fact, I saw a picture of Tom Mix. I looked at Ken. I was like, family resemblance pretty strong. Anyway, but the Tom Mix, the old silent westerns with Tom Mix, were so popular even back then. By the 1920s and 30s, they were seen in Japan. And the Japanese fell in love with baseball and the American West. The Germans loved westerns. In fact, some of the paratroopers in D-Day cut mohawks and put fake Indian paint on their face because they knew that the idea of being attacked by savage Indians terrified the Germans. And but all of that came about from cinema. So cinema's important. And I'm like, we need, movies like Saving Private Ryan and things like Band of Brothers. They really help people reconnect with their history in a way that keeps them interested in it. And I appreciate what Kermit's trying to do by keeping these old airplanes flying, but the real way to keep an interest in that stuff is movies. And there's not a lot of those old airplanes, actually more of those things flying now than there were before because so many have been rebuilt. Unfortunately, the dark side of that is you get movies, and I cannot believe I kind of took a half oath that I would never say this movie's name, but you get movies like Pearl Harbor. But then you also get some really great ones. You get the Toras and the. I would love to see 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. That's a movie that could be remade, but then you watch the original and go, why? They really did a good job with it. An Army at Dawn, yeah. There's the kind of exactly. And there's so many books being written now, but that doesn't reach the mass. Books reach the people that are interested. You need to reach everybody, and the theater does that. And to me, model making is still very much alive. Look, not to beat a point into the ground, but the idea of the theater is exactly the same kind of thing we were just talking about a few minutes ago with box art. And I said before, my brother made a great comment a while back that, as a kid shopping for models, looking at all those box arts, it was like going to the theater. There's a relationship there that people like Kashadi and Amendola and Linwood understood. That's why they're, and some of the great Japanese artists who've been doing some stuff, who are largely retiring now, and there will be new artists to replace them. But they had an understanding. I hated Flyboys. God, I made the mistake of watching that scene where he barrel rolls the German and takes him with the pistol. I'm like, no, God. If you want to make Star Wars, just make Star Wars. I can deal with the Mandalorian hopping a ride on a TIE fighter and cutting it in half with a, he used a bomb. But that's where the Black Saber came out. 633 Squadron is the kind of movie that should be remade because the special effects were good for the time, but they don't hold up well now. I made my wife watch it, and she was like, "Yeah, those are clearly toy. All the airplanes don't." I'm like, you know what? She's right. Now they see it as an adult. It's not the Cliff Roberts. In fact, I'll go you one further. You could take movies like Midway, the one made in the mid '70s, 633 Squadron, and a couple of other movies that era, maybe even the Battle of the Bulge. Cut out the parts with the A-list actors, the Henry Fonda and that stuff. Take those parts, reshoot all the other work, all the dog fights and tank battles and all that stuff, and then you could make a really good movie out of it. The problem is that, of course, they had to work with what they had in the technology of the day, which was accepted by the audience of the day. But you look at it today, and where Robert Shaw's or the Tiger rams the American Chaffee and knocks it over until Savalas has to bail out. I'm like, okay, even as a kid, I knew that was a model. I mean, it was a cool model. They really did a good job, but you broke the continuity. So if you guys have ever seen the movie White Tiger, where that movie, you got to give the Russians credit. The Russians, the Eastern Europeans and the Asians are putting out some really good looking war movies. Some of them are utter crap in their acting and stuff, or not the acting, it's the writing and the story. But White Tiger is one of those movies I looked at and I was like, wow, this movie's really got an authentic gritty look to it. Then you wind up with that goofy looking tiger tank. You're like, man, that kind of, even though it's supposed to be a ghost tank, kind of ruins it. Turns out they had contracted a company to make a full-size 1-to-1 scale Tiger, and they did. But they didn't have it done in time, so they dressed up, I think it was a T-34 or T-55, which is why it looks the way it looks. After the movie was already produced and in the theaters, and by the way, if you haven't seen White Tiger, watch it. You'll enjoy it, especially if you're a tank lover. But the Tiger that they actually made that didn't get made in time really looked good. And it went up on eBay and sold for like $500,000. And it was hollow inside, but still. I was like, damn, it's too bad they couldn't have gotten that done in time, because that would have really enhanced that movie, because that thing they came up with just... But otherwise, a really fun movie. Yeah, Battle Bulge, terrible movie. When I saw it as a kid, I thought it was okay, but even I knew there were patents. And of course, everybody loves the part where they sing, the patents are there. But one of Germany's better marching songs. But then the whole plot of the thing was just total nonsense. And of course, it sucks because I'm such an aviophile that even as a kid I knew my aircraft. And even as a kid I knew, hey, that's a Cessna bird dog. They didn't have those in World War II. Seriously, you couldn't find a Piper Cub? Come on. No, Flight of the Intruder did not live up to the book. I enjoyed the movie, but it was definitely, you're right, it did not. It left out what it put in. Well, animation gets away with so much. The Midway, the 1975 or 76 movie Midway in Censor Round, I remember seeing it with the big gigantic speakers. Some of the bombs dropped. I'm like, man, this is just annoying. But that movie would have been a lot better. In fact, if you get a copy of it, download it on your computer and just cut out all the scenes with that, who is it, Eddie Albert Jr. with the whole family stuff and Charlton Heston and his son and his Japanese girlfriend. Just cut all that crap out, and you got a good movie. Which in many ways was fairly accurate, although it's really hard to keep a battle that complex straight. And there's a lot they didn't touch on, or they touched on extremely lightly, because they just budget limitations. I mean, there was so much going on in that battle. But it was, in my opinion, the new one. Well, you know what, guys? I've already harped on that. You can go watch my video on it if you want to. But there was so much that they did wrong in the new one that didn't need to be done wrong. And for some reason, the thing that really chafes me is the TBD Devastator slinging their torpedo and a couple of 500-pound bombs. Which, one, they couldn't carry them out on the wings like that. And two, it just wasn't necessary. You guys spent all this money to add something to the CGI that didn't need to be there. And here's the part that was really nuts. They lob their torpedo and try to fly away with the bomb still hanging on the airplane. Oh, my God. Roland. Seriously, dude? Ugh. Battle of the Bulge, Patton's versus Patton's, commanded by George C. Scott. Yeah, in Patton you had, I always found it ironic, the movie Patton, the bad guy, the enemy tanks were Patton tanks. Even as a kid, and he said, those are Pattons. Oh, well, the Spanish Army helped him make it. I went, oh, those are Pattons. The movie's called Patton. And I mean, I was like 9 years old when this movie came out, and I caught that one. I mean, guys, it's called plywood, you know? You make a piece around the turret, put a flat piece on top, you know, maybe a little on the mantlet, and hey, now it kind of almost looks like a tiger. Oh, you guys already know this when they shot Apocalypse Now, which was, I was in the Army when I saw that movie. I was saying, hey, that looks like us. All the helicopters came for the Philippine Army, but they were fighting some insurrectionists, and they were always complaining that the choppers kept getting pulled away because they had to go fight in real battles. I was like, hey, can we take the camera crew? We might get some good footage. Oh, yes. Okay. TG, bring it on. I just got an idea. Tell me your favorite Cold War movie. And TG already picked mine, Strategic Air Command, because I love anything with Jimmy Stewart, who was my favorite actor. So we'll talk about the Cold War while you guys work on that. And we need more patents, yeah. Well, you know the old saying that these days, once you hit colonel, if you're not a politician, that's how you retire. And Yeah, that takeoff scene of the B-36, man, six burning, or so is it six turning, four burning, six turning, and filmed the Iron Maiden. Now, you want to see a halfway decent movie about the Germans? The Iron Cross was pretty good with James Coburn. It was kind of the World War II infantry answer to the Blue Max, and Sahara was good. Yep. Yeah, they were having to repaint them. That's true. Remember the Centurion chasing the guy? Fail safe, yeah, good one. Iron Maiden, Oh yes, Doctor Strangelove. Now, Doctor Strangelove is considered one of the top 100 movies to ever come out of Hollywood, and the model work was done on stage at Pinewood. And I may have harped on this before, but the inside cockpit set was so accurate that it caused an Air Force investigation. The Caine Mutiny, good movie. I really like that one. Pitch me. Well, Ray, that's why you love tanks. No, The Third Man is a Cold War movie. That includes the spy thrillers. They were all part of the Cold War. It held that Jimmy Stewart was a bomber pilot. Strangelove is fail-safe. It is. Strangelove is probably my favorite movie overall, period. Doctor Strange. If you said, Max, what is your favorite TV show? Firefly. What is your favorite movie? Would be Doctor Strangelove. And you really have to be talented to make a dark comedy about nuclear war that people still find entertaining. Clint Eastwood, that would be Firefox. A live movie of girls in Panzer. Okay, I'll admit I'd watch that. You know, the Bedford incident, it's funny that you mentioned that because my brother never liked that movie. He always thought it was, I don't know, something about it. But it's the kind of thing, I think the whole thing with firing a missile, I said fire, old MacArthur firing that thing, Dano from Hawaii Five-0. But still, it did show the true Cold War. I mean, it showed the Cold War tensions and that kind of stuff with them hounding submarines did happen. Don Knotts the fish, Mr. Limpet, the incredible Mr. Limpet. I remember seeing that as a kid. I loved that movie as a kid. Of course, I was 6 or 8. Two turning, two burning, two smoking, two choking, two unaccounted for. Yeah. Clearly you've worked on a corncob radial. No, Caine wasn't a Cold War movie, but Hot Shots Part D. Wings of Eagles was okay. How did you like it out there on that? You stuck your neck out. How'd you like it out there? Now, since you brought up that line, Michael, you guys, Michael's saying a guy had a pretty good time in Dallas with all this. That's where Slim Pickens and Dr. Strangelove's going to this travel kit. You'll find 145 automatic, 2 boxes of ammunition, 10 pairs of nylons, $100 in rubles, $100 in gold, 10 pair, it's kind of a pain pills, pep pills, 1 combination Russian phrase book and Bible. Oh, shoot, a boy could have a pretty good time in Dallas with all this. Yeah, he said Vegas, but you'll notice his lips don't match. And what Michael's pointing out is that the original line was a boy could have a pretty good time in Dallas with all this, but before the movie was released, Kennedy was assassinated. So they overdubbed a pretty good time in Vegas, but you'll see his lips. He's actually saying Dallas. I'll fix that if it hair lips everybody in Bear Creek. Best Years of Our Lives is absolutely a great movie. And I wouldn't call it a Cold War movie, but it was right on the cusp of the Cold War. Full Metal Jacket, Firefox. Firefox is more of a popcorn bubblegum movie. Although the book, but there's no way you're pulling that crap off. Toward the Unknown, yeah. Red Dawn. Oh, man. A lot of people credit Red Dawn with being one of the reasons Reagan got elected. Hunt for Red October. Excellent. Yes. Pork Chop Hill. I actually went to high school ROTC. Our commanding officer was first sergeant, later major, and then they combined his ranks to first lieutenant. Carl C. Dixon, who was got his Silver Star at Pork Chop Hill. He was a company commander at Pork Chop Hill. The guy that commanded the hill either just before him or just after him wound up getting a Medal of Honor, and that's the one Gregory Peck's character is based on. I don't think he thought that much of the movie, but it was. So I actually have a sort of what you might call a linked connection with Pork Chop Hill. He actually showed me, he still had in his briefcase the original battle map from Pork Chop Hill. It was like a big 9. It had, I think it was 30 or 50 fixed gun positions in it. And it is true, at one point though, he said he had a guy that was getting out of hand, and he had to have I think it was an NCO, and he had to task one of the soldiers was sitting there covering him, and it was a gun position with a 45, tell him if he gets up, shoot him, because he was basically bordering on mutiny. And they court-martialed him later, I think. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, yeah, that's about as Cold War got. The Dark World of Spies. Bridges at Toko Ri. The Bridges at Toko Ri is one of the best ones made because it's, first off, I love the speech that Frederick March gives him. When he comes up in his robe and everything after he got fish out of the ocean, and he talks about Forney and picking him up out of the water, and why don't you fake it, and all this to get a green slash. Was asking myself that while I was bobbing in the ocean. And he goes, look, son, you do it because you're here and they're there. It's just simple as that. And he wasn't wrong. Great movie. My brother never liked the old speech, where do we find such men at the end? But still, it's a good movie. And the thing that's great about it, it's one of the best anti-war films because it's an honest war film. You got this guy that you've met his family, you've developed this attachment to him, and they take it away. By the way, getting back to models, the ditching scene with the jet, it almost won an Academy Award, or maybe it did win one. That was considered some of the best Hollywood special effects, and that was just a big model panther they dragged through the water on wires. But it looked good. They made it big, and it made a big splash. And great model. And the whole thing with the jets flying over and the bombs going off, a lot of that was Lydecker model work, and it really holds up. Even today, it holds up. I love models. Missiles of October, good one. Go Tell the Spartans. You guys are coming with a lot of great ones. Some I didn't even thought of. The Hunters, I mean, I like the aerial work, but the whole idea of ejecting from a perfectly good airplane because you want to save somebody, for the whole romantic crap in that one kind of took it away from me. Although they kind of had the fighter pilot, it was Robert Wagner, told you I'm a killer. Yeah, where do we find such men? I enjoyed watching The Hunters. I mean, I'd watch it again if it came on, but it's just that whole, I'm going to eject out of a perfectly good airplane to save this guy. It was that whole romantic plot that kind of took away from that movie. There are a lot of great movies. If somebody said, hey, Max, we're going to give you money to make a Korean War aviation movie, I know what I'd call it. It'd be named after the book, Meg Alley. And it would just be a telling of the story. Catch-22, not a Cold War film, but a great movie, and supposedly had the most dangerous aerial stunt ever done in Hollywood when those 16 B-25s take off together. Because you had 16 old, nominally rebuilt airplanes all taking off formation. One tire, one piston, one prop, one valve seal. Anything gave, and you were just going to wind up with a pile-up of B-25s. There are more great war movies than there are racing movies. That's true. I think that has a little bit to do with that racing movies. I don't know how they fare at the box office, but that's something people go out and see every day. Whereas a war movie is exciting but foreign to them. To make a good racing movie, because anyone who's been in racing knows that it's not necessarily exciting to watch because a lot of racing is just guys focusing on what they're doing. And it's hard to make a racing movie exciting without getting into melodrama, because a lot of it is just, the guy's just focusing on driving the car and everything. And but If I was going to make a racing movie, I think the real excitement in a racing movie is not in modern racing. It's too mature. It's too developed. Everybody's professional. If you want to make a good racing movie, tell the story of Nuvolari, Tazio Nuvolari. That would be a good movie because that guy had one heck of a career, and the time that he lived in. No matter how professional everybody was, just the cars themselves could be your enemies. The problem is that racing, it looks deceptively safe until something happens. Well, I shouldn't say that. Depending on the camera angle and the way you film it, when you do see a race car and they have like the camera beside the tire going around, you see things getting close, you realize how they're hanging on an edge. Everybody's just waiting for the crash. So, yeah. I'd have to learn more about racing and about photography and everything and screenwriting to be able to put together a movie on racing that would stay exciting. But I do think the further you go back in time in racing, the more dangerous the vehicles, the more dangerous the tracks, the more exciting the movie. I mean, I know this. I don't mean to sound like a heretic, but if you guys remember the beginning parts of the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, where the car's a race car, and you see the world that they're operating in, and you realize how dangerous it was. Now that would get people's attention. Ford versus Ferrari. I know a lot of people love that movie, but a lot of the race fans, and of course, the race fans have the same problem with Ford versus Ferrari that I have with a lot of war movies. They know so much about the material that it becomes hard for them to enjoy the movie because it's just like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how this works at all. But I enjoyed the movie. I know enough about racing to enjoy the movie, but I don't know so much about racing that I could spot the problem, so I was able to enjoy it as a movie. But I know a lot of folks had a lot of guys who were into racing and knew the history of that particular era and time to enjoy it. But I don't know how true this is, but I've been told that Ken Miles, when they basically told him we want that the photo of the three of them, he didn't really have a problem. He said, "Yeah, I'm a hired gun. I'm working for you. If that's what you want, that's what you'll get." I don't know if that's true or not. That was just what one of my racing fan buddies told me. Franz Slieger and Charlie Brown, he's the one that escorted him out. If you guys don't know, there was a Messerschmitt pilot in World War II who found a shot-up B-17 trying to limp back to England. It was clearly out of the fight, and half the crew was shot to pieces. But an easy kill for him, and he pulled it beside it, and he made eye contact with the pilot or co-pilot, and he's like, these guys are done for. And he actually stayed on their wing until they passed out over the coast of Europe. And when the German anti-aircraft gunners, sighted them, they saw a Messerschmitt on the wing of B-17. They wouldn't shoot because they didn't want to shoot down one of their own planes, and he literally gave them an escort out. And he knew they were out of the war. And it became, there's a lot of artwork. There's been a book written about it. Ken Miles, World War II vet. That's true, but I imagine a lot of guys of that generation were. I mean, you think about it. My wife and I've been watching some John Wayne. She's kind of gotten into John Wayne westerns lately. Oh, I'm married well, and we've been we watched McClintock and Big Jake, and we just saw Hondo and the Comancheros, and I was pointing out to her that this guy like Lee Marvin's, and I was like, well, he was a Marine. He got injured at Tarawa, and Jimmy Stewart flew. We just watched what was it? Jimmy Stewart Broken Arrow with Jeff Chandler, and I'm like, Jimmy Stewart flew bombers, and this guy did that. And most of these actors had been in the military in World War II, and but that was their generation. And to my knowledge, the only military veterans currently in the pop culture, Adam Driver from Star Wars was a U.S. Marine, and Drew Carey was a Marine reservist. Now he's doing The Price is Right. But, which is ironic because Bob Barker, who did The Price is Right for years, had flown in the Navy, but he never saw combat. He was actually about to be deployed when the war ended. So was Dennis Weaver. He trained out in the American West and flew Wildcats and stuff and was getting ready to deploy when the war ended. So, yeah, Big Jake. Bom, 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 bom. I love the best line of Big Jake. Anything happens, your fault, my fault, nobody's fault. I'm going to blow the top of your head off. Stewart flew B-24s in World War II. He did fly B-47s. He even got an orientation ride at B-58 Hustler. And he was a model. He and Henry Fonda were both model builders. They flew flying balsa models. And, yeah, Kudakila, man, I'm probably butchering that. Not only is the Star Wars trench run more or less the Dam Busters combined with the dogfights of the Battle of Britain, but you go out on YouTube, put Shred Dam Buster Star Wars. They overlaid. They've done it both ways, where they overlaid the soundtrack from one to the other, and it's with a little editing, it's a nearly perfect match. So. Rudy Reyes is played by himself. Okay, I did not know that. Great. Hello, Keith. Well, guys, we're coming to the end of things. We're going 2 hours and 15 minutes. I am just thrilled that so many wonderful people have showed up and we've had a good time. Before we blast off, is there any questions or anything you guys want to talk about before we go? Because I'm going to wrap up here shortly. The wife has a way of luring me away from this. She doesn't tell me, oh, are you done yet? Or anything like that. No. She simply starts baking. I smell baked goods. One of my mini kryptonites. Well, that's true, John. And that's not a surprise because a lot of the World War II vets, and Audie Murphy, the highest decorated American, was very much a victim of this. Once they'd been in the war, they'd gotten used to a level of excitement and adrenaline can be a drug like any other. And they were always trying to recapture that thrill. And this was in armies across the globe. Germans, Brits, Americans, the works. Who was that famous British fighter pilot? He was in a Norseman carrying explosives to the Israelis and the plane blew up. But he was on the top, he was the Eagle of Malta, I think that's what they called him. You had Audie Murphy, who got heavily into gambling, and people said he was an inveterate gambler. But the thing is that what he was really trying to do was he gambled to get an adrenaline rush because he missed the excitement of the war. We're going to get a proper early one. Oh, yeah, we could use a good X-15. Yeah, it's not surprising. Boeing he's a pretty bad alcoholic. The only good thing about him being a Japanese POW is it dried him out. But Sergeant York was always a simple man. He was the kind of guy that was a hero because he was thrust into a situation not of his making. And York, he really was just an old boy from the Kentucky, West Virginia side of things. I mean, he was Joe Kennedy's explosion that was Operation Aphrodite. And I actually had to study that because I did the thing on drones for my master's degree. And that was an early attempt at drones. That was, they're pretty sure the Torpex just exploded, but God, that was a dangerous mission. And none of them ever really worked the way they were supposed to. But it was, it was a harbinger of things to come, though. They sort of understood drones before we had drones. Audie Murphy died in a plane crash. Yeah, in fact, I have him over here in my book, Music's Broken Wings. He was in, I believe, an Air Commander, but he was a passenger, not the pilot, although I think he may have known how to fly. But Murphy had run into some money issues, and he was going to invest in, I believe it was a company that made prefabricated homes near Galix, Virginia. And they were I was actually there one time. Somebody told me about it, but I looked it up. But it was they were looking at property where they were going to build a factory, and remember, he was just a passenger. The pilot, the weather started rolling on him, and the pilot decided to scud run in the freaking mountains, and they wound up CFIT, controlled flight into terrain. What a shame. Guy survived the entire Second World War to be able to pass her in a plane crash going out to look at property. I mean, the universe has a really vicious sense of irony. Robert was a Marine captain. Glenn Ford was a Marine enlisted man who got a commission in the Navy. So he went from Marine private to Navy captain, which is equivalent to a Marine colonel, and in the reserves. But he did his bit. Bierling, that's who I was thinking of. Thank you. The Eagle of Malta. And they made the mistake of sending him on some, after he shot down all these German planes, they made the mistake of sending him on what is equivalent as a bond raising tour. But it turned out that he was, I mean, the guy was probably about as PTSD'd as you can get. And when he would give speeches to people, he's supposed to be sitting there promoting them to buy more war bonds. And he would tell war stories, but he didn't have a filter. And he was like, all right, so I shoot down this Jerry bomber and I blow this, the gondola section out, and I get up close, or Italian bomber. I can see the tail gunner of just blasted with my 20mm cannons. His entire jaw's blown off. It's all hanging there with its brains hanging. And of course the audience is just like, like they whisk him off stage. Yeah, maybe we better just send you someplace else. And he was the one that was... this is how organizations like the guys who started Flying Tiger started the China Air Transport. They were all looking for that adventure. And I can understand that. Once you become accustomed to something... I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in combat. I have not. Okay. I mean, I was a police officer. I was in the Army. And I've been to a few incidents, but nothing like real combat. And in the Army, I was in the peacetime Army, so I can't really directly identify with it. But these guys who did, some of them, a lot of them, scared the crap out of them. They were happy to be back home. But some of them, once they'd gotten used to that taste of adrenaline, man, they could not let it go. They needed that action. Audie Murphy gambled, for the adrenaline rush, and there you go. Anyway, well, guys, yep, Will Rogers was killed in a plane crash with Wiley Post, but the story behind that is, I hate to blame Post, but he did make a mistake. They had to go to an area where he needed floats, pontoons to land, but they didn't have the proper pontoons for the plane. They did have pontoons for a different aircraft, and Post was like, go ahead and put them on, and they made the plane nose heavy. And there's a couple of versions of what happened. Apparently it took off, the engine sputtered, but with all that extra pontoon hanging on the front, the nose came down. They hit the water, went over. And I've seen a photo of the plane crash. Yeah, sad. Yeah, Richard Bong, who apparently they think he forgot to turn on, that was the E15 fuel pump. That was, they think that the mechanical pump failed and he didn't have the backup electric pump on. He tried to get out, but he was too low. And it didn't have an ejection seat back then. Oh, Lord. There's actually a video that was put out recently about pilots that were killed in unusual, like ace pilots that had fought danger and they were killed in these weird circumstances. And Bong was number one. But, I did not know it was Memorial Day weekend. God. Like I said, the universe loves its irony. Okay. Well, guys, I hope everybody's had a good time. I've enjoyed this immensely. You guys are wonderful. I want to thank everybody for everything. I want to thank Mark Huber, who, by the way, John, that's why we were talking about you early. Mark sent me some 1/32 scale miniatures of First World War pilots to go with the Felix stove. And He sent, guys, I know I read this earlier, but John wasn't here, so I'm going to reread this letter from Mark. Let me find my correct glasses. Did I just say that? Dear Max, please sign and close 112 scale. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. This is the letter from John, who sent me the 112 scale team manager. By the way, thanks for that, John. I was going to get to work on that today, but I didn't even get out to the Tarbis today. Okay. Where's the letter Mark sent me? That's kind of an irony. As a matter of coincidence, I have the letter from Mark and John, both right here on the desk. And Mark is talking about John. And oh, come on. I just read this to you guys. Oh. Got it. Letter from John, letter from Mark. Okay, so, John, for your edification. Hello, Max. I've enjoyed your YouTube channel for almost 2 years, even though you might be the main culprit who has influenced me to spend an obscene amount of money on aircraft models and accessories. This wouldn't be an issue if I weren't already addicted to scratch building slot cars, for which I blame John Kitt, of course. Anyway, it's wonderful. God, I love this channel. You guys are great. This is so much fun. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my microphone and camera. I'm going to loop the intro again so you guys can mute it if you want to. I'll give you about 10 minutes to talk amongst yourselves and everything. I might chime in while I get everything ready and tell my wife she can come back into Command Central, i.e. our bedroom. Oh, gosh. I really do enjoy this. I can't believe it. Man, this 2 hours has flown by. And we got 120 people watching. I'm just so happy. Everybody's just done so much great stuff. So anyway, let's see. Before I go, let me check my schedule, see if I'm free next weekend. By the way, I bid long call reserve next month. If they don't use me, then I'll be home a lot and we'll get a lot of work done, and we'll get, let's see, what's today's date? This 15th. Okay. I am off next Saturday, but I will not be off on the 29th. So let's plan on another live stream next week. And I got to go back to work in a couple of days. And I'll get off the day before that. So it'll probably be like this. Not a whole lot of stuff prepared in advance. But anyway, so we will plan on a live stream next week. Good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. Well, guys, once again, I can't thank you enough for just coming in and spending a couple hours of your valuable time with me. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. And as always, model on.
Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight. Just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bichat for sending me these images, and we're going to get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but woo. But anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. I really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance, so, Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight. Just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bashat for sending me these images, and we're gonna get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. You know, I really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance, so, you know. Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight. Just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bashat for sending me these images, and we're gonna get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. You know, I really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance, so, you know. Hey guys, I'm just getting ready for the live stream. Going to be talking models tonight. Just whatever pops into our heads. Nothing specific, just whatever you guys want to talk about, and a few things that I had planned for in advance. I want to thank Mike Bachat for sending me these images, and we're gonna get going here. I only had a couple minutes to put this video together. I know you're not supposed to drive and talk to people while you're driving. You should be focusing on the road, but anyway, I just wanted to, well, one of the things we'll probably talk about tonight is green screen and chroma key. All right, take care of yourselves. We're going to see you in just a little bit. Model on. See you at the live stream. Wait, I'm using this to open the live stream. If you're here, you're already at the live stream. You know, I really didn't have much time to set this up, and I had no time to write anything in advance, so, you know,